I think I don't know if I should share my screen or not. You guys all saw the draft what do you call it, slide deck that I did, right?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. I'll just share the screen, I guess. Maybe that'll just be easier. Okay.
I've skimmed
So,
it, but it would be great. I was assuming we would walk through it today.
yes. Yeah.
Wouldn't
Well, I was just tryang to figure out if I'm going to walk through it with the slides, you guys looking at the slides or not, but I'll just put it up.
Hmm.
If we decide that we
Yeah,
don't want the slides, I can just turn it off. So,
that's great.
I will share it once I can find this dang share button again. Um, and we'll go from there. Okay, share. All right, can everybody see this slide deck?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I was noticing last time that we all got together, the first time we all got together, the two things. One, I was super fascinated by where Luke was going with it,
Mhm.
and it was like a deep dive, like it was beyond my human design knowledge. Like he was diving into things that I haven't even looked at. And I don't think he's wrong. Like I think he's right. Like I think that there is stuff there that we can map fairly closely once we understand how it maps to like this is a problem. This might be the a great first gemmo or a great first remedy. Like I think that that is true. But I also found myself thinking, yeah, wait, we need to back up. Right? And so that's where this slide deck came out for me, which
Mhm.
is, I feel like, and I think that probably most of us here agree, that most of what's going on in any person's system at its core has to do with a dysregulated nervous system, right? So we can chase symptoms all day long, like we can chase whatever
Mhm.
knee problems, tooth problems, like whatever, like something, we actually, we do have things that are wrong with our body, but I feel like a lot of times the underlying reason is this dysregulation thing, right? And so just looking at that makes me think, I feel like we need to pull way back from these specific, like this gate maps to this part of the body and maybe this remedy to this more, broad overview of like what's going on at the high level, right? Like, is this person even a calm human being, right? Can they even manage the emotions that they're feeling? Do they feel safe in the world, right? Like, all of these things really matter. And I think that this is a place where human design at that very high level can be really helpful for practitioners. And so that's what I was trying to do with this first draft of this slide deck is just to say, cool, cool, cool. We can look at these very, discrete symptoms, or we can back up and be like, hey, how is this person functioning at the high level? And what does that tell us about their wellness? And so, this is where that map of the body graph, I think, can become so valuable, right? Because it gives us a place in our body to map back out these other systems in a way that can make sense, right? I think this is going to be a way that we can pull in astrology, pull in homeopathy, pull in these other wisdom systems and be like, oh, cool, this energy exists, and this may be how it expresses in our physical body, right? And so that's kind of where I'm coming from um in this particular slide deck and then what I'm talking about here. Any questions, feedback around any of that, Lauren?
Yeah. So Christine, what I'm taking in right now is if we ask that question as an opening question, do you feel safe? Do you feel
Yeah.
safe in the world? Do you feel something along that line? We're going to get all kinds of answers. But by what I'm hearing you say, the body graph may provide that map.
Hmm.
And I almost want to say like clues to
Yes.
why that might be true.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing you say?
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I don't think you're going to have to know a lot about human design to get those clues really, really quickly, right? And so Yeah, like I was trying to I see this as kind of a funnel, right? Like we go really broad first, right? And from a human design lens, the most broad thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our type, right? Like this is the most important thing for any of us, like knowing who your client is as a type. And this is where I think running a chart for them could be really helpful, even if you don't look at anything else, even if you literally just see, oh, they're a generator type, which they mostly are going to be, right? 70% of people are generator type. So mostly the people that come into anybody's practice are going to be people who are here to build and do and make things in the world, right? Which is great. We have a lot of building and doing and making in the world. But the key for a generator type is it has to be meaningful to them, right? It has to have purpose. And they have to love the work they're doing. Like they have to want to get up every day and go do it. And we also know this, like lots of people don't have that kind of work, right? And so at the very, very highest level, almost, I would guess at least 50% of the people that are walking into anybody's practice are generator types who don't like their work, who work because they need to make money to survive, to feel safe in the world, right? And so when you're a generator type doing work that you don't like, it is dysregulating to your system, right? And so nothing else is going to touch whatever the problem is if you have to go to a job every day that you hate. It's just, I just think it's a fact. You know, other than reframing in your mind your job, right? Like if you can work on like how do I reframe this thing that I hate into a thing that means is meaningful and purposeful for me, right? Which isn't always a doable thing. Um, but yeah, so does that make sense? Is that resonating at all? Yeah, Tanya?
Yeah, so so just what came to mind, I guess Dee and Lauren would know the word, it's just okay, you're identifying the obstacle to cure. What's the maintaining cause? Maintaining cause, obstacle to cure is what you're looking at.
Okay. I have never heard that term. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
This is just homeopathy language that there
Okay.
is something in place that is getting in the way just environmentally, like, for instance, the wife that's in the abusive home and the husband beats her every day. It's an obstacle to cure. It's a maintaining cause. I mean, we still need to work with it as a homeopath or as a practitioner.
Right.
You still need to work with that.
Right.
But to acknowledge and for yourself, and then help build a conversation with the client about the maintaining cause or the obstacle to cure.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like I see these things as like the chronic underlying thing of whatever acute symptom is expressing, right? The chronic underlying thing of a generator with a, I don't know, a bum knee is a job that they hate every day. They don't want to get up and go, right? So their knee is acting up because they hate their friggin' job, you know? So, and I think again, in human design, there are very specific emotions that we can look to, right? Like for a generator who doesn't like their work, frustration is the thing. Anytime a generator type is expressing frustration in any way, frustration with a job, frustration with people, frustration in any capacity, that is their signature that they are misusing their energy, right? They're using their energy in ways that are not aligned to them.
Tina,
Um,
a quick
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Uh, Are the manifesting generators here, or are they manifestors in this chart?
Manifesting generators are generator types,
Okay,
right? And
okay.
they are a bit of a hybrid, but truly at their heart, they're a generator. And so I just teach them as generators because I think it, and especially at this broad level, like it's they need to do the same things a straight generator needs to do, right? And so I'm just gonna not confuse things too much that way in that sense. So, and likewise, satisfaction, right? When you hear people who like their work and they're happy and they're doing things that mean something to them in the world, they will be satisfied, right? So, if you've got a generator person that's like, I like what I'm doing, but I have this bum knee, you can be like, cool, well, that's good. I don't have to worry about you not liking your work, right? Now we can look at other reasons for your knee. Um,
Yeah,
because I,
or Christine, the other way around is instead of diving into that knee, I could be looking at GMOs or remedies that might support their system to move towards regulation and make the changes or perspective changes themselves.
Right. Exactly.
So it's a different focus of where how we're prescribing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Um, and so projectors, that's the next most likely people you're going to get into a practice. And, mostly projector types are going to be tired because they work too much, because projectors should not work like generator types. And yet they live in a generator world, right? So they've been conditioned to do the work the way a generator would, which is this sacral, generators have this sacral life force energy. It's on all the time. They're busy, 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 busy. Doesn't tire them out. But a projector doesn't have that energy, never has that sacral unless they're borrowing it from somebody else. Um, and when they do, that's tiring to them also. That tires the system out. So projectors are often just tired. And so if you find out they're a projector, ask what their day is like. Ask what their schedule is like. If it sounds like a generator schedule, that's probably a real good clue that they're overworked. And their signature is bitterness, right? They will feel tired and unloved and uncared for and unseen, right? Like these are all things for projectors. And all of those things manifest inside their body in very unhealthy ways. They do not like to be unseen, and they do work and they overwork, but that's not good for them. So, and then success is their signature. So if they're feeling successful, if you've got a projector and they seem to be giving themselves rest and they seem to be taking, life at a slower pace as much as they can, and they feel successful, and they feel success for them is being seen, that they're able to share their gifts in a way that other people appreciate them, then, that again, that's not really where I would look. There's like something deeper going on. Like this projector thing is like, cool, you got that, you check that off, you're doing good, you're in success mode. And you guys can just jump in if you have questions. Don't worry about interrupting me. Manifestors, you're not going to see many, but if you see them, you're likely in this group probably to see female manifestors, and I would say you will probably recognize them very quickly because they're going to be angry, because it's really hard to be a manifestor in this culture. Because manifestors are generally raised by generators, and generators ask them questions all the time, and manifestors hate being asked questions. So they're not here to answer people's questions, right? They're here to initiate, and they're here to inform others of what they're going to do. This is their role in the world. Their energy is here to make things happen. And especially as children, they get conditioned to sit down and be quiet and do the thing that they've been told to do, which is not at all what they want to be doing in the world, right? And so it creates this very out of alignment human who is, kind of lost because the world doesn't really give them great guidance on how to use this energy in this initiation, in the initiatory way that they're designed to do. And for women, especially in our culture, it's difficult because manifesting as a woman is just culturally fraught with all kinds of stuff. So female manifestors, I think, have a really tough road to hoe, especially if they don't know they're a manifestor. Yeah, Tanya.
So, okay, so they're here to initiate.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean they're the people who like initiate, now I'm moving on.
Yes.
That's going, now I'm doing this.
Yes.
And so I guess culturally the message is like, get on a project, do a good job of it, complete it.
Yeah.
But they're not about completing projects. They're not about getting things done. And so what is the gift of their lens? Like, how do they, like, what are they showing? What do they bring to us as humanity? Like, what are they showing us? So that, like, do they have vision that we don't, that the rest of us don't have? Like, what is it?
Yeah. Well, they have that energy to initiate things, right? Like generators aren't really here to, even though we're here building stuff, it's not our role to like initiate the building. We're really here to be handed off these projects from the manifestors in the world, right? The manifestors are the ones that be like, "Hey, we need to do this thing. Here, generator, you go do this thing," right? And we respond. Like our job is to respond like, "Ooh, cool. I really like that project. I totally want to build that out." Right? And so they're really here, manifestors, to initiate, like to bring change, to mutate things, right? Like that's their role. And so when you ask them to do the same thing that somebody else has already done, that you might as well just like slit their wrists, right? That is not what they want to do. So again, they're in this corporate world mostly doing these projects that doesn't, that they didn't even dream up. That's just not their role. And they also have a creative pulse, right? Kind of like projectors, they don't have a defined sacral either. So they don't have a consistent life force energy. So they will get these really big creative pulses and then you won't see them for 4 months, right? Or 2 weeks or whatever their particular pattern is, right? Like they are on and off. And again, they live in a world that requires them or asks them to be on all the time. So this is all anger inducing for a manifester. So this anger piece is really huge and very noticeable as in my experience so far. I can find like when I meet somebody, I've noticed lately, I'm like, oh, I bet they're a manifester. And I've even heard people talking on podcasts and I'm like, I bet they're a manifester. And I've looked them up and I'm like, yeah, they're manifestors.
Mhm.
So they don't want to answer questions because, or justify because they have a different way of knowing that's not necessarily comes through a cognitive brain. And I can explain it here, like, this is why you need to be doing it this way. They have a knowing from somewhere else and
Mhm,
they don't have the answers necessarily. And I don't want to be questioned or be challenged on this.
mhm,
I just
mhm.
want this to happen.
They want to inform and they want to be informed. They want to tell you this is what I am doing. And this is the strategy for them because when they tell, say, a generator type what they're doing, it allows the generator type to respond to, yes, I want to do that too, or no, I don't want to do that. And they also want to, they should, if they know this about themselves, it's really good to train other people up to inform them, right? Like instead of saying, like if my husband was a manifester, instead of saying, hey, do you want Chinese for dinner? It would be way better for me to say, hey, I really want Chinese. Let's go do that. And he'd be like, cool. Right? But a manifestor doesn't want to answer like yes, like they just don't want to answer those questions. They just want you to do the thing and let them know what you're going to do.
So, Christine, that's a piece that's always confusing to me because that sounds like then the generator is becoming the manifester in that moment. And so this is the dynamics I think I find really blurry for me. Give me maybe give me the example of the perfect manifestor's role and their world. What would that look like?
Um, yeah, like I kind of think of it, I always think of things in art terms, but to me, like the perfect manifestor role would be like one of those artists that's made it in the art world in such a way that they get to dream up the next project, but then they literally have staff that goes and builds it out for them, right? Like
Okay. Okay.
right, like there's just this, I mean, again, like I mean we all have creative energy, like there's not to say that all of us can't come up with our own creative projects, but when I was saying about like I hear what you're saying about like if I inform you that I want Chinese food and you're a manifester, it sounds like I'm initiating Chinese food for dinner, but I'm not. I'm just saying I'm speaking my truth. I've responded to my own inner knowing that hey, Chinese food would taste really good to me tonight and I want it. And I'm just telling my manifester that's what I want. They don't want me to ask, hey, do you want that too? Because manifestors will tell you, like, if you inform them and say, hey, I'm gonna go, I want Chinese food, they're gonna be like, great, you have fun doing that. I don't want Chinese food, right? They're not gonna feel compelled to say yes. Like, you're a generator type. I'm a generator type. We feel compelled to, you know, respond in a way that's copacetic, right? In a way that keeps us in relationship. Like that's part of our aura. And a manifestor doesn't have that so much. They're not here to make other people happy, right? They're here to just do what they want to do.
Okay.
So it's hard for generators to understand, I think, like, oh, manifestor is just gonna say no, he doesn't want Chinese food.
So does that feel like a lot of resistance or obstinance? Like as a generator,
Hmm.
I say blah blah blah, like no, no, like that snappy kind of like I'm like, well,
Hmm.
what is it that you do want? Like
Hmm.
this constant. I'm thinking of my sister right now, one of them.
Yep.
But
Yep.
um, I'm just like, just tell me what it is that you want. Like
Yes.
I'm tired of guessing. So so and we get into this dynamic of she feels controlled by me. I'm like, I don't have a need to control you, but I do need you to step up.
Yep.
But so how do you engage
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it's
inner?
really hard. It's an out of alignment, right? It's a manifestor that doesn't know they're a manifestor, doesn't know that they're here to initiate and inform, right? And is waiting, has been trained up as a generator trying to respond, right? They're not good at responding,
No.
right? She's not a responder by nature, by energy type, right? But yet she's doing it because this is what she was trained to do. And she's a woman, right? And so going around just doing what you want to do when you want to do it and informing people of it is not how we train women to behave in our culture. So they don't get good responses when they do it. Like if she all of a sudden started being like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I want to do and I'm gonna make these things happen and I'm just people would be like, what, what are you doing? Right? You didn't ask anybody's permission, right? You're not making nice, you're not playing nice with people. And then the other thing you said, yes, like my experience of manifestors, they have what we call a closed and repelling aura. That's the words that human design uses. I feel like it's kind of like a force field. When I'm in aura with these people, it's like two ends of the magnet, the same poles, like pushing. That's what it feels like to me. Like there's something about their aura, you can't see inside of it. So as a projector, you're trying to look in directly, and there's just like this force field around your sister that's like, no, you can't see in here, right? Same for generators. Generators are used to feeling into each other's auras. They can't feel into a manifestor aura, right? We don't know what they're thinking. We don't know how they're feeling, right? So this is a true energetic thing with a manifestor that you're articulating.
And then how do as a homeopath or as a coach or as anybody, like how do you, I mean, I guess you can explain their human design to them, but like how do you interact to bring forward their strength?
Right. Right. Well, so that's like that is I don't know enough homeopathy to know, but my instinct is are there remedies, are there gemmos that can so I think of like walnut as a gemmo, right? Like this alone, like a being alone, right? Like does an energy like that impact an aura, like a manifestor aura in a way that would either calm that kind of closed offness or heighten it, right? Like so I think I would look at those sorts of things. Like, is there a way to kind of get under that natural energy to be removed in a way that allows them to, instead of being angry and alone and removed, being in their power alone and removed, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So it feels like very strongly like a self-esteem thing, like being able to have compassion, build compassion for self and build autonomy.
Right.
Like, right, it sounds like they need a lot of autonomy, except
Yes,
that culturally they're shut down or they have a
exactly.
system that they don't have autonomy.
Exactly. Freedom. Freedom is a huge word for a manifester. Do
Uh,
they feel free to do what they want to do? Right? And this is, you can only imagine that they do not feel free to do what they want to do. Most of us don't, right? We all have obligations in this world.
right, right. Dee, am I making sense? Or you have something to?
Well, I can relate to what you're talking about and find it is a difficult one as far as that's concerned to how to resonate because it's an issue with my sister also, being a manifester. And what I try and do with her is just to encourage anytime that she can think about what she might like to do and not have to acquiesce to the group or to the family. That's a big one for her.
And she, it's a challenge for her, and she has a lot of demands. So, anytime, she can take off by herself or take time to herself or whatever, which can be down low, but it's the same, low on the priority list. But it's the same, for anyone that comes in, it depends on how conscious they are of who they are innately versus who they're putting out, with their energy and the discord between the two. So sometimes it isn't even, they're not even that aware. They're just aware they're frustrated. They're not happy with life. They don't know what it is, though. And I just wonder sometimes with this one way Christine's describing it is that they come in so disjointed with who they are versus how they were entrained, all their
Yes.
conditioning just
Yes.
seems like, it's a hard one to step over.
Yes.
So, Dee, what I'm hearing in my situation is like a constant theme of I'm lonely, I'm lonely, I'm alone. I want a partner, I want to be with people. But like zero skill set in that. Like every single relationship you start, you blow up. Like you sabotage it all. And so does that resonate to you, or does
It
that?
does in the sense of, again, not being very conscientious of their part, who they are, aligning, how can they move to who they are and show up in there? That's where I think the big disconnect happens. If they don't know, if she's not knowing, who she is or what she really wants or how to speak it, then it's going to blow up relationships. So it's hard. It's hard as far as that's concerned if they don't know a little bit about what they might
Right.
truly want. So that's where, like with my sister, it's like any little thing I'll try and accent. And sometimes, it just goes right over. It's like it can be too much sometimes too, if I'm emphasizing that part and she's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a really interesting problem. And this is one of those things that, like, having Luke might be really helpful in that, like, there may be, like, I think this to me is like a remedy thing, right? Like, now I don't understand enough about homeopathy, but to me, it's a constitutional thing, right? Like, your energy is significantly different than the energy of literally 90% of the rest of the humans on the planet. This has always been the case for you. You've always felt out of step, right? You have this inner energy to make things happen in the world, whether or not you consciously realize it. And you are constantly being thwarted in your attempts to do that, right? This is the basic life of a manifester, period, right? No matter how they've grown up, where they've grown up, right? They want to initiate life and they can't. They're being held back, usually by conditioning through other humans, right? And so this to me is like, what's the constitutional remedy that can give people this, whatever, reconnection to self, acceptance for being different, like acceptance for being somebody that's initiatory. Like, I don't know. I don't know enough about homeopathy, but that's where I would look. Kara, yeah.
I wonder if if we think about like thrive examples of manifestors who are thriving, is it that they've just like found their people? That they've gotten clear on what, well, and by find their people meaning like they found people who care about what they want to bring into the world. Like maybe there's a new way of seeing things, and so it's probably not a large population that's going to like get their vision and what they want to do. So maybe it is like when you're happy, it's like you've found people who like can help bring your vision to reality and like get it and
Yeah.
want to support it. Does
Yes.
that resonate?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It seems
And I
like
also,
that
yeah.
that could always be good in that circumstance, if there are like-minded or like energy as far as that's concerned.
Mhm.
And what I find interesting, there are a couple areas with my sister, for example, going off by herself. She's now carved out 2 weeks out of the summer. She goes in this little cat cottage, and the family might come and go a little bit, but that's huge for her.
Yeah.
So it's actually having space enough for herself to be able to feel herself and have
Yeah.
her own rhythm that has been most beneficial. The other thing with a manifest, I don't, I don't know if this is a pattern, but I've seen it a bit, is that because they're so out of discourse with, or with the way they were imprinted versus how they are in that inner conflict, she ends up using mistletoe a lot as far as a
Mm.
gem because of the level of dysregulation that comes up. She can feel people easy and everything, but she can get dysregulated quite easy. So mistletoe's an easy one. And then we'll use constitutional, and often with the constitutional remedies, go in kind of the back door with a physical and see, what the picture is. I'm looking at the mental emotional component, of course, but it will be through a physical. It's like, oh, you need such and such a remedy, and that will
Mhm.
help her.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, at paths in as far as support for
Yeah.
manifestors.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's
That,
really helpful, Lee.
yeah, that's helpful that I can trust the physical in this case,
Yes.
to guide me. Um, what would you say, Dee, about hawthorn? I like the idea of walnut, for sure. What would you say about hawthorn?
It could be. I find more frustration, like migraines, more frustration coming up through with it. So it could be grief, certainly grief or grief of loss of self, which is underneath there, but it isn't always the most prominent expression.
Yeah.
Okay, grief of loss of self, that makes total sense.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you have a sense that this is more of a mistletoe thing.
It can be because of the suppression of the self that seems to come with this one in women. This is what I'm associating more. It comes with the suppression of self that
Yep.
has to happen in order for them to move into the world or, make it through childhood or whatever.
Sure.
So then, at the point where you start exploring and you just, after a while, you just get tired of that total missing, that alignment with who they are. So the mistletoe
Yep.
be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, I think the other thing about manifestors a lot is to think about freedom, right? To think about
Mm.
like where they feel obligated in the world. And we
Mm.
have a world that creates a lot of obligations, right? And so I think about women who have children because that's a great initiation project. But man, like taking care of children, that is not a manifestor job, right? Like, so if you're gonna be in a relationship with a manifestor, you better hope you've got a generator type as another parent that's gonna like take over the actual like day to day making that stuff happen, because the obligation of like doing the same thing all the time, which is all childcare is like it's hard for anybody, but it's really hard for manifestor types, right? So thinking about from a client standpoint, like how many obligations, like I know some manifestors who have a pretty freewheeling lifestyle. I think that makes a huge difference for them, right? They get to come and go as they want. They keep their own time. They have, right? They keep their own accounts, right? All of that. Like they have control, which is what gives them freedom. And it isn't about the control, it's about the freedom to not be obligated to do for others. It's really hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can think of, in this case, all of the belly aching about the responsibility and obligation for family members.
Hmm.
When I just want to turn around and say, like, there are 3 other siblings that are doing way more than you are. Like, what is the problem?
Hmm.
But it's like I'm obligated. I have to do this. There's a lot of belly aching around that, for sure. And for me, I just get fed up and want to just say, just pick one small responsibility and do it.
Well, so but
I
your job in that relationship is to inform her
yeah,
your truth, right? Like this is what I am doing. Thank you. Right? Like I'm informing you of what I'm doing and what I need in this moment and what my capacity is. And that's the only discussion that we need to have, right?
yeah,
She
yeah.
can
And,
do
and
with
I do
that
live
as
in
she,
that. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. Dee, can you give me just a couple of remedies that you think resonate with that, like resonate with your sister in this kind of energetic dynamic? Do you have an idea off the top of your head?
Well, let me just look.
No, that's okay. We don't have to spend time on it. I just thought
No,
if
we
you had,
don't, but um, there's some, what I can say that I've been doing more recently, for one thing, is working with the Candabridge, Candbage. He's a South American homeopath he uses an algorithm
Yeah.
that pulls together all, like probably about 30 remedies. It's very easy, and I have found it extremely helpful as far as getting effects. So what, and it's very simple to put in the information. You can do 10 cases free to give it a try.
Yep.
And I had done it a while ago, and it was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Dee, as you do more of that, I would love to see if there's any pattern to be mapped back into the body graph. If
Yeah, it
that's
would be really
that would be
interesting.
really
I mean,
interesting to see.
it's a proprietary algorithm that he's using. And
Yeah, I'm not so,
he's using wisdom systems also
yeah,
to the combination. But I just like the results. So then I can go into more specifics, like where they are for, like cystis. I've used cystis with her. I've used, I'm just trying to think offhand, some of the remedies, but it breaks it down into kingdoms, but I just find it hones in so much easier.
interesting.
I
I'd
think
love
Yeah,
to
it's
I
figure it
used
out.
rounded at this point.
Bridge years and years ago, but I think and I had dropped it. So thank you.
Okay.
And I was wondering if this system actually is very aligned, like if what we're trying to do here is what Canterbridge actually is doing.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. I'd
But
love to know more about that.
but
There
yeah,
must be some overlap
there's
because
got to be
I feel like
overlap.
human design is using multiple wisdom systems, and he's using obviously a couple of them. I don't know if human design uses a little bit more, but there's obviously an overlap.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Interesting. Thank you.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to refine. We have this huge wealth of information from whether it's human design or homeopathy or astrology, all of these wisdom systems. Even like if we take homeopathy, we're trying to get down to how can we refine this in a way that makes it most efficient
Right.
and effective, those two together, as far as, at this point, how can I be most effective so I can bring the best possible help to who's ever coming in?
Absolutely.
And these
Helpful.
are the things I find that are really helpful.
Or,
Thank you.
I mean, for me is, or how can we make a system that I don't need to be involved? Like I can literally hand it to somebody else and they can be their
Yeah.
own homeopath.
Yeah. No, that's a
You know?
good point too.
You
That's
know?
takeaways, empowering them is
Yes,
so
exactly.
important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carrie, you've been waiting patiently. Sorry.
Sorry.
It's all good. I just wanted to get in the queue. So I had two questions. The first one will be quick. I'm just curious if everybody on this call, what your type is. So just for context as we're talking, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah. So you're a projector, Kara. Tanya's a projector. Dee is a generator. Lauren's a generator, and I'm a manifesting generator.
Okay, awesome. That's helpful. Thank you. And then
Luke
could you speak?
is Luke. Luke and
Luke is also so I can show you actually really quickly if I can get my, so Lauren is a generator with a lot of definition. I don't know if you can see these. This is Luke, also a generator with less definition, split definition. This is Dee, also generator with quite a bit of definition. This is Tanya, projector type, down in these lower centers. Jyoti, also a projector with very little definition, and then Kara, you, a projector with more definition. So does
Cool.
that?
Awesome.
Oh,
Thanks
and
for
then,
getting that
and then
together.
Christina and me. Sorry, Christina and I are the manifesting generators over here in the corner. So,
Cool.
yeah.
And then my second question is, can you speak a little bit between and maybe this is on a future slide, like differentiating manifestors and projectors would be helpful for me to hear, how do they work best together?
Yeah, so manifestors and projectors share the non-sacral, like they're non-sacral beings. They do not have defined sacrals. Projector types can have all sorts of definition, just not have the sacral. The manifestor always has a motor, so the heart, the solar plexus, or well, you can't really have a root. So I would say the heart or the solar plexus has a direct connection to the throat. That's what makes them a manifestor, right? So like the throat is our manifestation center. And so a manifesting generator also has a motor connected to the throat. This is the difference between a plain generator and a manifesting generator. So they have this component of manifestation, this component of initiation. And so that's the difference there between a manifestor and projector. The They're both non-sacral. They both have tend to have pulsing energy, lower energy, not lower energy, but just they need more rest. They just do, both of them. But the projector is much more about guiding and seeing things, seeing people especially very clearly. And the manifester is much more about their own process and about initiating, making things happen in the world. Um, does that help?
I could, yes, and it's really close. And I'm just trying to get really clear on if they're like on a project together, what might their roles look like.
So it's actually really cool to have a manifester on a project in that their energy can as it's initiatory, it is also catalytic, right? Like it has this piece where it brings the energies of others together in a way that can really cement them. And so, especially an aligned manifester, right? Like you don't want some angry person on your project. I don't care, what their background is or what their type is. But if they're relatively aligned, they can be very catalytic. And so having them there can be really great. Generally, giving them the responsibility of initiating and coming up with the ideas can be really good for the whole process. And then the projectors really are great at the guiding of it all, right? Like the generators bring the energy to do and to make things happen, and the projectors are there like, cool, 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 generators, slow your roll over here, put a little more energy over here, right? Like we need to keep this thing going in the right direction for the right reasons. Like that's the projector role. Like they really want to guide that energy because a generator can just go off and be making all kinds of stuff that doesn't really need to be made. And that's where the projectors come in to be like, yeah, let's do this a little differently. Maybe you experience that in your work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like the manifestors are more of the visionaries.
Yeah.
Is that fair? And then
Yeah.
projectors are I mean, I find myself in this role a lot at work where I'm kind of my best when I'm in kind of like the liaison between the vision and the execution. I can't be the one executing, but
Yep.
I am very good at like working with like a creative
Mm-hmm.
artistic type who's got like a vision or just or I don't know, but then overseeing the execution so that the vision actually gets translated into
Exactly.
real reality.
Exactly. And you bring up a great point too, right? Like this is another thing because we're such a work oriented culture, right? Like I really feel like so many of our health problems come directly out of our work. And this idea, like you could be working in a space and a company for a company that you like, but if your role in that company, like if you, Kara, were the person that they were looking to come up with all the new ideas, like that could be freaking exhausting for you, right? So, like, recognizing that even stuff that you want to be doing and that you feel has purpose for you, if you're being asked to do things that are energetically misaligned for you, it can be equally problematic, right? It's like, I love the company, I love what they're doing, I love all that, but then I feel drained at the end of every day, right? Like, it's great to be able to, like, well, what is it being asked to do specifically, right? And is it in alignment? And it sounds like what you're doing is perfect. You're that bridge, right? And that's exactly projector energy. Like, cool, I see all this energy. Let's guide it. Let's move it to the best possible place. Awesome. Any other questions about any of that? I know we're close to time and I'm on like slide 2. So hopefully it's been useful. Um, and I'll just finish up here
Very.
with reflectors. Like you're not going to meet many reflectors. They're literally 1% of the population. But again, 1% of the population in the United States is still like whatever, 3 million people or something. It's a significant number of humans. And reflectors, it's tricky. Like just as a manifester feels out of like a fish out of water in many ways, the reflector definitely does. They definitely don't feel like they're of this planet, I think, a lot of times. Because they're just open everywhere. They're receiving energy all the time. They are our barometers, essentially, in the world. They are like the projector at the collective level. Like, what is going on this planet, in my environment? And I'm reflective of it, right? So when you meet a reflector and they are out of whack, it is 100% an indicator that their environment is out of whack, right? So the most important thing for a reflector, and frankly for anybody with a lot of openness in their design, is to be in environments, in good environments, around people that are good for them, right? Because that is that they're taking in this energy all the time. And so, and they're just reflecting it back out in the world. And it's, you know, you know what it's like, right? You're in a bad place, all bad things happen. And this is the case for every human, but it's especially true for reflector types. And so they are really here to kind of be almost childlike. Like in an aligned way, a reflector is really here to be in awe and wonder all the time. Like, oh my God, this world is so amazing. This is such a surprising thing. Like surprise is their signature emotion. Like, how cool is that? Right? Like that's the way an aligned reflector should be. But that's not the case. They're mostly in this disappointment space, right? Because the world is very disappointing. So it is just paying attention to that. Again, you're not going to see many reflectors, but their signature emotions would be very clear too, I would think. Um, and so here, just to follow up again, generators, do they have meaningful work? And are they getting enough physical activity? This is another real problem in our culture, right? So many people have desk jobs. For generator type, to go and sit for 8 hours a day is awful. We know it's awful. It's awful for bodies just from from the get-go, but it's especially hard on generator types. And so this activity, and this doesn't mean you have to work out 5 hours in the gym, literally take a walk. Best to take several short walks during the day. Like a generator really needs to get moving to keep that generating energy moving in their system. They get antsy. They're the toe tappers, the pen flippers. Like those are the generators of the world, right? Projectors, 100%. Do they feel seen and recognized for their gifts, right? If they're walking in your door and they're not feeling well, it's almost 90 times out of 100 it is, I have all of these gifts to share and nobody sees them, nobody appreciates them, right? Be feeling unseen, not feeling unseen for the gifts that they think they're bringing, right? It's not that they're not doing good work in the world, but if it's, again, if it's not meaningful work, if it's not really bringing forth their true wisdom in the world, then they're going to feel this unseen invisibleness. There's a lot of like, I feel invisible. A lot of projectors will say that. Nobody sees me. Nobody knows what I'm actually bringing to the table. And partly because a lot of the work that they do is not, it is exactly what Kara was just saying. I'm good at bridging these two energies. I know it's a natural thing for me to do. I know how to do it. And it isn't something that there's no metrics for it, right? Like nobody's showing at the end of the quarter, like, oh, I see that you did this 48 times, right?
Oh my gosh,
Um,
you just hit the nail on it, Christine. I just wanted to acknowledge that because it's like I've been told so many times by the managers like who do, I can tell they get it. They see me, but they can't quite put language to like why I add a ton of value to the team.
yeah,
So they're just like, things are just better when you're involved.
yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
cool. As long as I'll
honestly,
get promoted for that, we're fine.
well, honestly, Kara, it might be a really great practice for you to actually, when you find yourself doing that thing and you recognize in yourself what it is that you're doing, make a note of it, right?
Mhm.
Literally just be like, I made this connection with this person on this project that nobody else knew about, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And make note of it, A, for yourself, because it's important for projectors to recognize themselves too,
Mhm.
right? You can take
Yeah.
yourself and your own gifts for granted, right? And so whether or not you ever show that to a supervisor, whatever. But if they ask, you can be like, hey, I've actually been keeping track, right? And you can say, these are the 10 things that are invisible to most people, but actually made a huge difference. And I can even link them to somebody's bottom line. This one made us $1 million, whatever, right? Like it's absolutely
Yeah, I
possible.
wish I could do that. I think often it's like the value that I provide doesn't show up in like the like spreadsheet that we fill out for like being
Right.
good at this in your craft and that in your craft. And so it's, oh gosh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I have like the
I know,
automatic
I have this
gestures. Check
problem.
this out. It'll do fireworks.
Oh, oh my God.
Um, yeah. I leave it on just for fun. It provides moments of delight and calls. But yeah, it's that would be that's often my challenge is like I have to check the box on the things that are required for my role, but then find a way to like articulate the special sauce that is being a projector
Yeah.
role.
Well, like I said, even if you just do it for yourself, I think it's really valuable. And I suspect if you started keeping that, did that as a practice, that you would see in and amongst those data points places where you could map it back to actual monetary value, right? In some form or fashion. Um, you know, again, we don't track what, you got to ask the right questions to get the right answers, right? So, so you have to train up your supervisors to ask better questions. So yeah, manifestors, do they feel free and able to live without interference? 100% the question I would ask, or just pay attention to as you're talking to, your clients. And do they allow for this creative pulse? This on and offness in the manifestor is very real. And being off in our culture isn't really allowed. And so they're often are working through this. When the pulse is off, they're still slogging away, which is really deadening for a manifestor. They need to give themselves the space to not work and to not be initiating when they don't have the creative energy to do it. And reflectors, again, are they in good environments? Are they around good people? And do they regularly experience awe and wonder? Like nature for all of us is a curative for sure. Reflectors, I think in particular, can be very positively affected by a regular nature practice of some sort, right? Like I swim every day. Like it doesn't have to be that intensive, but to be very intentional and mindful about being in a natural, awe-filled space can be really life-changing, I think, for a reflector type. All right, so we're at the, I got through 3 slides. Clearly, I am a really lousy teacher.
This was really helpful. It was very good. It was really helpful. I appreciate you allowing us room to ask questions and understand deeper. And it's helping me to tie in how I could help, recognize their type and guide them a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. I really do feel like this, like I said, if you knew just one piece of human design, this piece and could really be a piece that is helpful, right? You can dig. I think there's like got 28 more slides where we dig deeper, but um, but yeah. So
Christina,
It
yeah,
would be
absolutely.
great to continue with what you do have at our next time.
Okay, cool. Kara?
I did have one other question. So coming back to like how the manifesting generators, today we're looking at them as a generator. Do
Mhm.
you feel like any of the manifestor like little sprinkles of what the
100%.
manifestor describes here? Okay.
100%. And so I will say, yes, so the anger, so for a manifesting generator, frustration and anger are equally possible as the signature emotions, right? We do have that manifesting, like, I'm fucking pissed, right? Like, I definitely identify with that. And we do have this initiation capacity more so than a regular generator. Like we do have that that motor to the throat connection. Like so there's one particular channel, the 3420, which is called the channel of charisma. It is literally called the channel where thoughts must become deeds. Right. And there's a lot of manifesting generators on the planet that have that. And it is very much like, yes, I got this hit. I want to do this. I'm going to go do it. Right. And don't get in my way. Right? There's very much that energy as well. More so than a generator type. Often they are not quite so like, I got to do it now. Um, yeah. Does that answer that? Is there any other manifesting generator questions?
Yeah, it sounds like it's like, if we have a manifesting generator in our life or practice, like it might be like a hybrid of the
Yes.
generator
Yes.
and
Yes.
manifestor
Yes.
archetypes. Yeah.
So the other thing to know about them, they're going to want to be busy. That is a generator thing, but they're going to want to be busy doing 14 different things. This is, I often, like I've said, I think that, much of what we call ADHD is just undiagnosed manifesting generator, right? It's 100% aligned for a manifesting generator to have 14 plates spinning because they're making connections between these things all the time and they skip steps and they mess things up sometimes and they have to go back and they hate it, but that is their process. They are fast paced and multi-passionate is the word they use for that. And so allowing that and not, and I've got two manifesting generator children, and I wish I had realized this when they were younger. Like I was always like, why don't, because I'm a manifesting generator, but I'm really good at finishing things. I have a lot of energy to finish things. They are not. They're just like, I want to try this. I want to try this. I want to try this. And I only want to do it for 5 minutes. It made me crazy. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. This is super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I've updated the slide deck a little bit from where I think you guys first saw it. I don't know if we want to dig deeper into it in some other session, but you guys are always welcome to just ask questions, just whatever, email me, text me, whatever. I'm happy to answer them at any point. So, or jump on a call. I'm happy to jump on a call too if you guys have specific questions and you just want to talk through something.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great. I would love to go deeper. I would,
Me
I,
too.
I want to do the whole slideshow, but.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I-
clearly I need to be I need to do something better about like, I got to fit it all on one slide.
No, 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 no.
No.
Christine, you're doing a wonderful job. Like
Okay.
this is the foundation right here, like what we talked
Right.
about today. So I imagine that like this is really helpful for all of us just to be able to ask questions and get feedback. Otherwise, if we don't get this part, we're not going to get the rest of it. So
That's
Yeah.
right.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah,
that's
this is
true.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that's good. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear. I think
Yeah.
we lost
Yeah.
Lauren, so
Yeah.
We did.
So I'm dying to know who showed up at her door. You know?
I know. I don't know. I guess we'll never. Well, maybe they'll. I don't know. Maybe it'll still be recording. Maybe when she gets back, maybe she'll tell us.
Right, right.
All right, ladies. I'll let
Cool.
you go. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to quit out of this. I guess I can. Y'all have a
Yeah.
good day. Okay.
All right.
Good to
Thanks
see
so
you.
So great
much.
to see
Good to see
you.
everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Stop share. Stop recording.